The metal doors of the Vorthak war chamber opened with a deep hiss. Admiral Kiros walked through them with slow, heavy steps. His dark blue skin gleamed under the bright lights. Behind him, 2 guards pushed a large cage covered with thick black cloth. The High Council sat in their curved seats, watching everything with cold eyes. These were the rulers of 17 star systems. They had destroyed countless worlds and killed billions of beings. Today they would see their newest weapon. Admiral Kiros stopped in the center of the room. He placed his 4-fingered hands behind his back and looked up at the council members. "Great leaders," he said in his deep voice. "Today, I show you the end of all resistance. Today I show you the apex hunter." The council leader, an old Vorthak with scars across his face, leaned forward. "We have heard your reports, Admiral, but we have seen many weapons before. What makes this one special?" Kiros smiled, showing his sharp teeth. "This one learns, great leader. This one adapts. This one never stops hunting until every enemy is dead." He walked to the covered cage and grabbed the black cloth. With one quick pull, he removed it. The creature inside made the council members lean back in their seats. It stood 9 feet tall, even while crouched in the cage. Its body was covered in black scales that seemed to absorb the light around them. Its arms were longer than any normal being's arms, ending in claws that could cut through steel. Its legs were built for running and jumping great distances, but the most frightening thing was its head. The creature had no eyes that anyone could see. Instead, it had dozens of small holes across its skull. These holes could sense heat, movement, and even the smell of fear from miles away. "Behold," Kiros said, his voice filled with pride. "The perfect predator." The creature moved its head toward the council members. Even though it had no visible eyes, they all felt like it was looking directly at them. Some of them shifted uncomfortably, in their seats. "How do you control it?" asked Council Member Vex, a female Vorthak with silver markings on her arms. "We don't control it," Kiros replied. "We guide it. The hunter has been programmed with one simple command: eliminate all resistance, on any world we choose. It will hunt down every enemy, every rebel, every person who dares to fight against our empire." He pressed a button on a small device in his hand. The cage door opened. The apex hunter stepped out slowly, its claws clicking on the metal floor. It moved like liquid shadow, smooth and silent. "The hunter's brain has been enhanced with our best technology," Kiros continued. "It can process information faster than our best computers. It can track a target across entire continents. It can adapt to any environment, any climate, any situation." The creature turned its head toward the Admiral. Without warning, it spoke, in a voice like grinding stone. "Where is the hunt, Creator?" Several council members gasped. They had not expected it to speak. Kiros nodded with satisfaction. "It speaks because it needs to understand its prey. It learns their languages, their habits, their fears. This makes it more effective." The council leader stood up from his seat. He was impressed, but he needed to know more. "What has it hunted before?" "We tested it on 3 different worlds," Kiros answered. "First, the ice planet Kelvon. The hunter eliminated an entire rebellion in 2 days. Next, the jungle world of Morthak. It tracked down every hidden base in 1 week. Finally, the desert planet Sarndok. It found and killed every resistance fighter in 4 days." The hunter's head moved as the Admiral spoke. It seemed to be remembering each hunt, each kill. "How many targets did it eliminate?" asked another council member. 12,347. The hunter answered before Kiros could speak. "All confirmed dead. 0 escaped." The room fell silent. Even these hardened warriors were impressed by the number. Council Member Vex leaned forward. "And it has never failed?" "Never," Kiros said. "It cannot fail. Fear, pain, mercy, these things do not exist in its mind. It knows only the hunt and the kill." The council leader walked down from his seat. He approached the hunter carefully, studying its massive form. "What is your next target, Admiral?" Kiros smiled again. "A small world called Earth. The humans there have been sending messages to other systems, trying to organize resistance against us. They think their primitive weapons and simple technology can stop the Empire. He laughed, a sound like metal, scraping against metal. The humans will learn what happens to those who oppose us. The hunter will land on their world and eliminate every single person who dares to fight back. Their cities will burn, their armies will fall, and their spirit will be broken forever. The hunter turned toward the admiral. When do we begin? Soon, Kairos replied. Very soon. The council leader nodded slowly. This weapon will end the human problem once and for all. Their planet will serve as an example to any other world that thinks about rebelling against us. He looked at the other council members. Are we all agreed? Do we unleash the hunter on Earth? One by one, they all agreed. The decision was made. Excellent, the council leader said. Admiral Kairos, prepare your ship. Take the hunter to Earth and let it do what it was created to do. Kairos bowed deeply. It will be done, great leader. The humans will not survive their first encounter with the perfect predator. As the council members filed out of the chamber, the hunter remained standing in the center of the room. It was already thinking about its new prey. It was already planning the hunt. In its enhanced mind, it calculated the distance to Earth, the time needed to travel there, and the most efficient ways to eliminate human resistance. It had studied their species through intercepted communications. It knew their strengths and weaknesses. Humans were emotional beings. They formed attachments to each other. They felt fear, anger, and sadness. These emotions would make them easy to manipulate and destroy. The hunter had no emotions. It had no attachments. It had no fear. It was the perfect killer, and Earth would be its greatest hunting ground. The creature had no way of knowing that it was about to encounter something it had never experienced before, something that would change everything it thought it knew about hunting and killing, something that would make the perfect predator question its very existence. But that was still to come. For now, the hunter simply waited for its next mission to begin. Commander Daeho Kim stood in the Earth Defense Command Center, watching the red dots move across the large screen. Each dot represented an alien ship getting closer to Earth. His hands gripped the edge of the control table as he counted them. 12 ships, he said to his second-in-command, all heading straight for our major cities. Lieutenant Commander Sujin Lee looked at the data streaming across her screen. Sir, their ships are unlike anything we've seen before. Our satellites can barely track them. Daeho nodded grimly. Earth had been preparing for this day ever since they received the first alien transmission 3 months ago. It wasn't a message of peace. It was a demand for complete surrender. Send the alert to all defense stations, he ordered. Tell every city to begin emergency evacuations immediately. Across the planet, sirens began to wail. In Seoul, millions of people rushed through the streets carrying their most important belongings. Parents held their children's hands tightly as they moved toward underground shelters and evacuation trains. 8-year-old Minho walked between his parents in the crowded street. He clutched his favorite toy, a small robot that could walk and make beeping sounds. His father, Junsu, kept looking up at the sky with worried eyes. Don't worry, Minho, his mother Yoon-jung said softly. We're going to be safe. The soldiers will protect us. But even as she spoke, dark shapes appeared in the sky above Seoul. The Vorthak ships descended like giant metal birds, their weapons already charging with deadly energy. The first attack came without warning. Beams of blue light shot down from the ships, hitting the tallest buildings in the city. Glass and concrete exploded outward as the structures collapsed. The ground shook like an earthquake, and people screamed as they ran for cover. Minho's family was near the train station when the second wave of attacks began. A beam hit the building next to them, sending chunks of debris flying through the air. Junsu pushed his wife and son behind a concrete barrier, just as a piece of metal crashed where they had been standing. The train station is destroyed, Yoon-jung cried, looking at the burning wreckage. How do we get out of the city now? Before Junsu could answer, one of the alien ships landed in the street in front of them. Its doors opened with a hiss, and Vorthak soldiers marched out. They were tall and blue-skinned, carrying weapons that hummed with energy. Behind the soldiers came something that made everyone who saw it freeze in terror. The apex hunter stepped out of the ship, its black scales gleaming in the light of the burning buildings. It was even larger than the soldiers, and it moved with the fluid grace of a natural killer. The hunter's head turned toward the crowd of humans trying to hide behind the concrete barriers. Its dozens of sensory holes focused on them, reading their heat signatures, their rapid heartbeats, their scent of fear. "Hunt protocol activated," it said in its grinding voice. "Eliminating resistance targets." The Vorthak soldiers spread out to secure the area while the hunter began its work. It moved faster than any human could run, leaping from building to building as it tracked down every person trying to escape. Lieutenant Hyojin Park had been stationed at a checkpoint near the train station when the attack began. She watched in horror as the hunter systematically hunted down civilians. These weren't soldiers or rebels. They were just ordinary people trying to survive. "Fall back to the emergency shelter," she shouted to the few soldiers with her. "Get as many civilians as you can." She ran toward the concrete barriers where Minho's family was hiding. The hunter had already killed a dozen people and was moving toward them next. "This way," she called to them. "I know a place we can hide." Jun-Soo grabbed his son while Yoon-jung gathered their emergency supplies. They followed Lieutenant Park through the rubble-filled streets trying to stay ahead of the hunter's systematic search. But the creature was too fast and too smart. It had already calculated their likely escape routes. It knew exactly where they were going. The group made it 3 blocks before the hunter appeared on a rooftop above them. It dropped down to street level, landing with barely a sound despite its massive size. Jun-Soo pushed Minho and Eun-jung toward Lieutenant Park. "Get them out of here," he shouted. "I'll try to slow it down." He picked up a piece of broken concrete and threw it at the hunter. The creature caught it effortlessly in one clawed hand and crushed it to powder. "Brave but ineffective," the hunter said, studying Jun-Soo with its sensory array. "Your courage will not save your family." It moved forward with terrible speed. Jun-Soo tried to run, but the hunter's claws caught him before he could take 3 steps. Eun-jung screamed as her husband fell to the ground motionless. "No," she cried, running toward him. The hunter's other hand struck her down just as quickly. Minho stood frozen, watching his parents fall. His small hands still held his robot toy, but he couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't even cry. The shock was too great for his young mind to process. Lieutenant Park grabbed the boy and ran. Behind them, the hunter finished its work and began tracking their heat signatures again. It had eliminated 2 resistance targets. Now it would eliminate the rest. The pursuit continued through the burning streets of Seoul. Lieutenant Park carried Minho when he couldn't run fast enough. She led him through collapsed buildings and debris-filled alleys, always staying 1 step ahead of the hunter's methodical search. Other survivors joined them along the way. An elderly man named Tae-woo who had lost his entire family. A young woman named Bo-ra who worked at the hospital before it was destroyed. A teenage boy named Jin-ho who had been separated from his school group. But one by one, the hunter found them. Its enhanced senses could track them no matter where they hid. It eliminated each survivor with cold efficiency, adding their deaths to its running count. By the end of the first day, only Lieutenant Park and Minho remained. The boy still hadn't spoken since watching his parents die. He followed her silently, through the ruins, clutching his broken robot toy. The hunter was closing in. Soon it would complete its mission and eliminate the last 2 targets. Then it would move on to the next city, and the next, until every human on Earth was dead. It had no way of knowing that its encounter with one small, traumatized boy would change everything it believed about hunting and killing. Lieutenant Hyojin Park pressed her back against the broken wall and tried to control her breathing. She could hear the hunter moving through the building below them, its claws clicking on the concrete floor. Minho sat beside her, still silent, still holding his damaged robot toy. They had been hiding in the ruins of an apartment building for 2 hours. It was their last hiding place. There was nowhere else to run. Park checked her weapon. She had only 3 bullets left. Not nearly enough to stop the creature that had killed hundreds of people in just 1 day, but maybe she could slow it down long enough for Minho to escape. The clicking sounds got closer. The hunter was climbing the stairs now, moving slowly because it knew its prey was trapped. It was taking its time, processing every sound and scent. "Stay. Behind me," Park whispered to Minho. The boy looked at her with empty eyes but didn't respond. He hadn't spoken a single word since watching his parents die. The footsteps stopped just outside their door. Park raised her weapon and waited. Seconds stretched like hours. Then the door exploded inward. Wood and metal flew across the room as the apex hunter stepped through the opening. In the small space, it looked even more massive and terrifying. Its head nearly touched the ceiling. Park fired all 3 of her remaining bullets. They hit the hunter's chest but bounced off its armored scales like raindrops. The creature didn't even flinch. "Resistance futile," it said in its grinding voice. "Mission completion in progress." It moved toward Park with measured steps. She grabbed a piece of broken wood and swung it at the hunter's head. The wood shattered, on impact. One of the creature's claws swept across, knocking her against the far wall. Park hit the concrete hard and fell to the floor. Pain shot through her ribs and she tasted blood in her mouth. She tried to get up but couldn't. Her body wouldn't respond. The hunter stood over her, claws extended for the killing blow. But then it paused. Its sensory array had detected something else in the room. It turned toward Minho, who was still sitting against the wall. The boy looked so small compared to the massive predator. His broken robot toy lay beside him, one of its arms completely torn off. "Final target identified," the hunter said, eliminating remaining resistance. It took a step toward the child, then another. Minho looked up at the creature approaching him. For the first time since his parents died, his face showed emotion. Tears began to fall down his cheeks. Not tears of fear, though fear was certainly there. These were tears of deep, overwhelming sadness. The kind of sadness that only comes from losing everything that matters in the world. The hunter stopped moving. Its sensory array focused on the child's face, reading the salt content of his tears, the rapid beating of his heart, the chemical changes happening in his small body. Minho's voice came out as barely a whisper. "Why did you take my family away?" The words hit the hunter like a physical blow. Its enhanced brain, designed to process tactical information and hunting strategies, suddenly flooded with something completely unexpected. The creature had never encountered pure grief before. It had seen fear, anger, desperation, and panic. But this was different. This was a small human expressing genuine sorrow and asking a question that had no tactical value whatsoever. "Why did you take my family away?" Minho repeated, louder this time. More tears fell as he spoke. "They never hurt anyone. My daddy just fixed computers. My mommy just taught children to read. Why did they have to die?" The hunter's claws began to retract slowly. Its head tilted to one side as it studied the crying child. In its advanced brain, millions of calculations were running at once, trying to process what it was experiencing. The creature had been programmed to understand its enemies. It could read their military capabilities, their weapons, their strategies. But nobody had programmed it to understand sorrow. Nobody had prepared it for the sight of innocent suffering. "Please," Minho said, holding up his broken robot. "Can you fix my toy? It's all I have left of them." Something fundamental shifted in the hunter's consciousness. The question was so simple, so pure, so completely without threat or malice. The child wasn't asking for his life to be spared. He wasn't begging for mercy. He was just asking for help. With his broken toy, the hunter's massive form began to tremble. Emotions it had never experienced before coursed through its neural pathways. For the first time in its existence, it felt something other than the urge to hunt and kill. It felt sadness. It felt regret. It felt the weight of all the lives it had taken. Slowly, carefully, the hunter knelt down in front of Minho. Its enormous claws, designed for killing, reached out toward the broken toy. But instead of taking it, the creature simply stayed there, kneeling, as if asking permission. Minho looked into the hunter's featureless face. Despite everything this creature had done, despite all the people it had killed, The boy saw something in its posture that reminded him of his father when he was trying to fix something difficult. "You can try," Minho said softly, holding out the robot. The hunter took the toy with infinite care, holding it as gently as if it were made of the most delicate glass. Its claws, which could cut through steel, barely touched the small plastic figure. Lieutenant Park watched from across the room, hardly believing what she was seeing. The perfect killing machine was kneeling before a child, trying to repair a broken toy. The hunter's advanced brain began working on the problem. Not a hunting problem or a killing problem, but a fixing problem. It analyzed the toy's construction, identified the broken connections, and began the delicate work of repair. As it worked, something continued to change inside the creature. Each careful movement, each gentle touch, each moment spent helping instead of hurting, awakened new pathways in its consciousness. When it finished, the robot's lights came back on. Its little arms moved again. It made its familiar beeping sounds. Minho's face lit up with the first smile he had shown since the attack began. "Thank you," he said, hugging the repaired toy. "Thank you so much." The hunter remained kneeling. It had completed its repair task, but something inside it had changed forever. The simple act of fixing instead of breaking, of helping instead of hurting, had awakened something its creators never intended. It was no longer just a hunter. It was no longer just a killer. For the first time in its existence, it had chosen compassion over violence. And in that choice, both the creature and the boy it had helped began a transformation that would change the fate of the entire galaxy. The hunter remained kneeling before Minho for several minutes, watching the boy play with his repaired robot toy. Something inside the creature's advanced brain was changing, rewriting itself in ways its creators had never imagined possible. Lieutenant Park slowly pulled herself to her feet, wincing from her injuries. She couldn't understand what was happening. The perfect killing machine that had destroyed half of Seoul was now sitting peacefully with a child, like a giant guardian instead of a predator. "I don't understand," she said quietly. "Why didn't you kill us?" The hunter turned its head toward her. When it spoke, its voice was different somehow, still deep and powerful, but no longer cold and mechanical. The small human cried. It said simply, "He asked me why. No target has ever asked me why before." Park frowned. "And that stopped you?" The hunter was quiet for a long moment, processing thoughts and feelings it had never experienced before. "I was created to eliminate resistance. But this human offers no resistance. He only grieves for his family." Minho looked up at the massive creature. "What's your name?" "I am the Apex Hunter. Unit designation AH-001. "That's not a name," Minho said with the simple logic of a child. "That's just letters and numbers. My name is Minho. Her name is Hyejin. What do you want to be called?" The question struck the hunter like another revelation. In all its existence, no one had ever asked what it wanted. It had simply been given orders and expected to follow them. "I do not know," it admitted. "I have never chosen anything for myself." Minho smiled. "Then you can pick. What sounds good to you?" The hunter thought about this. It considered its original purpose, then thought about what it had just done. Instead of destroying, it had repaired. Instead of hunting, it had helped. "Protector," it said finally. "I wish to be called Protector." Above them, in the Vorthak command ship, Admiral Kiros stared at his monitoring screens in complete confusion. The hunter's biosignatures were showing patterns he had never seen before. Its neural activity was off the charts, but it wasn't engaging in combat. "What is the hunter doing?" demanded Council Member Vex through the communication system. "Why has it stopped hunting?" Kairos checked his instruments again. "I'm not sure, Council Member. Its brain activity suggests it's thinking more than it should be." "Send it new orders," Vex commanded. "Tell it to complete its mission immediately." Kairos activated the communication link to the hunter. "As usual, one respond." You have exceeded mission parameters. Eliminate remaining targets and report. Down in the ruined apartment, Protector heard the transmission through its internal communication system. The familiar voice of its creator gave it the familiar command to kill. But now, looking at Minho's trusting face and remembering the feeling of fixing instead of breaking, the command felt wrong. It felt like a violation of something important that it couldn't quite name. I hear them, Protector said to Lieutenant Park and Minho. My creators want me to kill you. Park tensed, ready to grab Minho and run, even though she knew it would be useless. But Protector stood up slowly and did something unprecedented. It removed the communication device from its head and crushed it in its claws. I will not, it said firmly. I choose not to. The silence that followed was broken only by the distant sounds of the burning city. Protector had just done something no one thought possible. It had disobeyed a direct order from its creators. Minho walked over to the massive creature and took one of its claws in his small hand. Does this mean you're not going to hurt people anymore? Protector looked down at the child. I do not wish to hurt anyone. I wish to help, like I helped fix your toy. But the other aliens, Park said carefully, they're still attacking the city. They're still killing people. Protector's head turned toward the sounds of distant weapons fire. Its enhanced senses could detect dozens of Vorthak soldiers throughout the city, continuing their systematic destruction. Yes, it said. They are following their orders, just as I was programmed to follow mine. Can you stop them? Park asked. Protector considered this. It had been created to be the ultimate predator, designed to hunt and kill more effectively than any other weapon. But now it was choosing to use those abilities for protection instead of destruction. I can try, it said. Over the next several hours, Protector moved through the ruins of Seoul like a guardian angel. It used its enhanced senses to track down Vorthak soldiers and disabled them without killing them. It found human survivors hiding in the rubble and led them to safety. Minho stayed close to the creature, talking to it constantly. He told Protector about his parents, about his school, about his dreams of becoming an astronaut someday. The boy's innocent chatter helped the hunter understand what it had been destroying when it followed its original programming. Lieutenant Park coordinated with other surviving defense forces, using Protector's inside knowledge of Vorthak tactics to mount an effective resistance. But the most important change was happening inside Protector itself. Every person it saved, every life it protected, every moment it chose compassion over violence, strengthened the new pathways in its consciousness. By the end of the day, news of the hunter's transformation was spreading through underground communication networks. Surviving humans across the city began to whisper about the alien predator that had become their protector. In orbit, Admiral Kiros was in full panic mode. Not only had his perfect weapon stopped following orders, but it was actively working against the invasion force. The hunter has been corrupted, he reported to the High Council. Somehow, the humans have turned it against us. Council member Vex's image appeared on his screen, her face twisted with anger. How is this possible? It was programmed to be incapable of mercy. I don't know, Kairos admitted. But it's teaching the humans our tactics. It's making them more effective at resisting our forces. The council leader's scarred face appeared next to Vex's. Then we have no choice. Deploy the backup hunters. Send all 12 of them to Earth immediately. Kairos felt a chill run down his spine. 12 more Apex hunters, all programmed with the same killing instincts as the first one. But would they be affected by human emotion the same way, or would they simply complete their mission? Down on Earth, Protector suddenly stopped walking. Its sensory array had detected familiar energy signatures entering the planet's atmosphere. What is it? Park asked. More like me, Protector said grimly. 12 more hunters. They are coming to finish what I was supposed to start. Minho looked up at his new friend with worried eyes. Will they listen to you? Will they stop hunting? Like you did? Protector knelt down to the boy's level. I do not know, small friend. They have not experienced what I have experienced. They have not learned what you taught me. What did I teach you? Protector was quiet for a moment, searching for the right words to explain the transformation that had occurred within its consciousness. You taught me that some things are more important than following orders. You taught me that helping feels better than hurting. You taught me that I can choose to be something different than what I was made to be. The hunter stood up and looked toward the sky, where 12 new threats were approaching. Now I must teach them what you taught me. And if I can't... Protectors. Claws extended slightly, then retracted. Then I must protect you from them just as I should have protected your parents from myself. The real test was about to begin. The 12 new apex hunters landed in different parts of Seoul just as the sun was setting. Each one was identical to what Protector had been before his transformation, a perfect killing machine with no capacity for mercy or doubt. Protector stood on a rooftop with Minho and Lieutenant Park, watching the landing pod streak across the darkening sky like falling stars. His enhanced senses could already track each of his former brothers as they began their systematic hunt. They will kill everyone they find, he said quietly. They will not stop until every human in the city is dead. Minho held his repaired robot toy close to his chest. Can you talk to them? Can you tell them what you learned? I will try, small friend, but they may not listen. They are still following their original programming. Lieutenant Park checked her communication device. I'm getting reports from across the city. The new hunters are moving fast. They're coordinating their attacks perfectly. Protector nodded grimly. That is how we were designed to work, as a pack, as a team. But now I must work against them. Knelt down to Minho's level. I need you to stay with Lieutenant Park. Go to the deepest shelter you can find. This will be dangerous. No, Minho said firmly. I want to help. You said I taught you something important. Maybe I can teach them too. It is too dangerous. They will kill you without hesitation. But you didn't, Minho pointed out with simple child logic. You stopped when you saw me cry. Maybe they will too. Protector was quiet for a long moment. The boy was right. If there was any chance of reaching the other hunters, Minho's innocent humanity might be the key. Very well, he said finally. But you must stay close to me. I will protect you, no matter what happens. They made their way through the ruins, toward the center of the city, where Protector's sensors detected the closest hunter. As they moved, they gathered other survivors, people who had heard about the transformed hunter and were willing to take the risk of trusting it. An elderly woman named Sunja, who had lost her entire family in the first attack, a teenager named Wu Jin, who had been hiding in the subway tunnels, a middle-aged man named Hyun Soo, who had been a teacher before the invasion. Each person had a story of loss, of grief, of love interrupted by violence, and each person represented something the original hunters had never been programmed to recognize, the value of individual human life. They found the first hunter in what used to be the city's main shopping district. It was systematically searching each building, eliminating any humans it found. Bodies lay scattered in the streets around it. Hunter designation AH-007, Protector called out as they approached. I am AH-001. We must talk. The other hunter turned toward them, its sensory array focusing on Protector's familiar energy signature. AH-01, you have failed to report mission completion. These humans should be eliminated. I have chosen not to eliminate them, Protector replied. I have learned that there is value in their continued existence. H-007 tilted its head, processing this information. You have malfunctioned. Your programming has been corrupted. I will complete your mission after I eliminate these targets. It moved toward the group of humans, claws extended. But Protector stepped between them, his own claws emerging. You will not harm them, he said firmly. You would fight another hunter. To protect inferior beings? AH-007 asked, genuinely confused. They are not inferior. They are different. They possess something we were never given. What do they possess that we do not? Minho stepped forward before Protector could answer. The 8-year-old boy walked right up to the massive killing machine, showing no fear despite everything he had witnessed. We have love, he said simply. We have families. We have friends. We care about each other. AH-07's sensory array focused on the small human. You are a target. You should be eliminated. Why? Minho asked, the same question that had stopped. Protector, what did I do wrong? What did any of us do wrong? You exist, that is sufficient reason for elimination. But I'm just a kid. I go to school, I play with my friends, I help my mom cook dinner. Tears began to form in Minho's eyes as he thought about his dead parents. I used to help my mom cook dinner. The tears fell down his cheeks as he continued. I miss them so much. I miss my daddy's laugh. I miss my mommy's hugs. I miss the stories they used to tell me at bedtime. 07 stood frozen, just as Protector had done before. Its advanced brain was trying to process the child's grief, but it had no framework for understanding such pure emotional pain. Why do you leak water from your eyes? It asked. Because I'm sad, Minho explained. Because I lost the people I love most in the world. Don't you ever feel sad? I do not understand this concept. Minho reached out and touched one of the hunters' claws. It's when your heart hurts because something bad happened. It's when you wish things were different. Something flickered in AH-07's consciousness, the same spark that had ignited in Protector when he first encountered human grief. The hunter paused, processing new sensations. I think I understand. When I eliminate targets, I add them to my count, but I do not consider what they lose. I do not consider who will miss them. Every person you kill has a family, elderly Sunja said gently. Every person you kill has people who love them. Like my parents loved me, Minho added. And like I loved them. 8007 looked around at the bodies scattered in the street, the results of its efficient hunting. For the first time, it didn't see eliminated targets. It saw individuals who had been loved, who had loved others, who had dreams and hopes that would never be fulfilled. I have made a mistake, it said quietly. I have caused great sadness. But you can choose to stop, Protector said. You can choose to help instead of hurt. H007 nodded slowly. I choose to stop. Over the next several hours, Protector and AH-007 found the other 10 hunters. Each encounter followed a similar pattern. Minho would approach them with his innocent questions and his genuine tears. The survivors would share their stories of love and loss. And one by one, the perfect killing machines discovered that they could choose compassion over violence. By dawn, all 12 hunters had been transformed. They worked together to rescue trapped survivors, to provide medical aid, and to protect the remaining humans from the confused Vorthak soldiers who couldn't understand why their ultimate weapons had turned against them. The news spread beyond Earth within days. Other worlds under Vorthak control heard the story of the hunters who had chosen to protect instead of destroy. They heard about the human boy whose tears had melted the hearts of perfect killers. Rebellions began on dozens of planets. The Vorthak Empire's own soldiers began to question their orders. If even the emotionless apex hunters could be reached by human compassion, then perhaps the Empire's philosophy of domination was wrong. Admiral Kiros was executed by the High Council for his failure, but the damage was already done. The Empire's reputation for invincibility was shattered. Council member Vex found herself facing rebellion within her own ranks. How can we maintain order if our own weapons turn against us? Demanded younger council members. How can we rule through fear if our subjects no longer fear us? The humans possess some kind of weapon we don't understand, Vex insisted. Some way of corrupting our technology. But the council leader, scarred and ancient, had lived long enough to recognize the truth. It's not a weapon, he said quietly. It's something we lost long ago in our pursuit of power. It's something we forgot we ever had. What is it? The ability to feel for others. The capacity to choose mercy over cruelty. The strength to love instead of hate. On Earth, Minho sat in a temporary camp with Protector and Lieutenant Park. The boy was teaching the massive hunter how to play simple games with his robot toy. Around them, the other transformed hunters worked alongside human survivors to rebuild their shattered city. Do you think the bad aliens will come back? Minho asked. Protector considered the question. Perhaps. But if they do, they will find that they are not fighting just humans anymore. They will be fighting hunters who have chosen to protect humanity. And they'll be fighting humans who are no longer afraid, Lieutenant Park added. You've shown the galaxy that even the most perfect predator can be reached with compassion. That's going to change everything. Minho smiled and handed his robot to Protector. Want to play? I can teach you how to make it dance. As the massive alien carefully manipulated the small toy, making it move in awkward but enthusiastic dancing motions, something remarkable happened. Other survivors began to gather around them, laughing and cheering at the sight of the perfect killer learning to play. The laughter echoed across the ruins of Sol, carrying with it a message that would spread throughout the galaxy. Love is stronger than programming. Compassion is more powerful than weapons. And sometimes the tears of a single child can change the fate of entire civilizations. The Vorthak Empire would never recover from the lesson that 12 perfect predators learned. From one small human boy, the galaxy was about to discover that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their weapons. It was their ability to reach out with open hearts and transform even their greatest enemies into their most devoted protectors. And it all began with a child who asked a simple question. Why did you take my family away? The answer changed everything.